Hey everyone, welcome to Comics Inside Out. Today we're going to be taking a look at a physical copy of issue 59 of Tales to Astonish, printed in September of 1964. Probably hit the stands 2-3 months before that. Giant Man and the Wasp, guest cameo by the Incredible Hulk. And there's the B story, which is going to feature some really cool details about Hank and Jan. This scene looks a little familiar to me, and probably does to anyone else who's familiar with the first Ant-Man film. You know, I kind of like this look on Hulk. You don't see it an awful lot. You saw it early on, that shattered shirt look, you know, and he spends the story pretty much with that shattered shirt. He looks more monstrous. I always thought Giant Man's costume was kind of interesting because it's a throwback to his Ant-Man, the blue trunks, and then he's got the blue gloves and the boots that have sort of those tapered edges. They look a little medieval to me, like maybe something a peasant or a jester would wear. So I'm always kind of confused by why this costume. I think it's an awesome costume, but I guess, you know, the why is maybe it just looks cool. All right, enter the Hulk. And on the splash page, we've got basically a meeting of the Avengers. Thor and Iron Man are in physical contact with Giant Man, which I like. That creates a sense of sort of comradeship and, friendly feeling. So two things caught my eye on this splash page, technologically speaking. One was that Iron Man made mention of newsreels. Now, newsreels, for those of you who don't know, were essentially little documentaries that were shown in movie theaters that captured news events of the day. The newsreels would be maybe 5-10 minutes long. Now, I thought by 1964, newsreels would have been on their way out. But I was surprised to find out that as late as 1964, there were still newsreels in the movie theaters. And here's one from 1964, documenting the great Alaska earthquake of that year. And just like the newsreels of old, they had the traditional, more or less 4x3 dimensions and were in black and white. The other thing that caught my eye was this little handheld projector. Now, of course, we have handheld projectors in 2018, but I was curious about projector technology back in 1964. Did maybe Stan Lee see something that might have been similar to a projector that showed television signals on the wall of maybe a Sears or a J.C. Penney's or something like that back in the mid-60s? Is that possible? Certainly. Projecting, say, a TV show or a film, smashing that together into a handheld device. Yeah. Team of Stanley Decayers, Paul Rainman and Art Simic. On the west side of town, we've got the Human Top. He's smoking in bed, like you do. I thought this was a cigarette holder originally, but I guess it's more like a Tipperello or maybe a Moore cigarette. He's reflecting on how he got owned by Giant Man and the Wasp. He's gotten rid of his dopey costume, and now he's also got an additional superpower, which he uses the force of air pressure to generate into a stream. Here is a not very attractive panel. Just a little typo, but leave the top with his bitter thoughts. And Hank talks about now he no longer needs to even use capsules. He can use his cybernetic helmet to not only just change his size with his mind, he can change Janet's size with his mind. So he has absolute control over whether or not she's a normal size or tiny size. They go out on a date and they're in costume, and they're getting harassed by some guys. And in fact, one of them says, hey, let's follow them. And Giant Man says no and deals with them appropriately. Giant Man surprises the Wasp by saying, hey, look, we're not going out on a date. We're not going to dinner. Actually, we're going to go fly out to New Mexico and try to find the Hulk. And so they hop on a commercial flight and the Human Top follows them. And then they're out in New Mexico and Giant Man bumps into Thunderbolt Ross. When Giant Man asks about the Hulk, he calls the Hulk a menace, which I think is... it's reminiscent of J. Jonah Jameson. It's, of course, the same writer, Stan Lee. So, and Bruce Banner's really salty. He's like, I don't know where the Hulk is. I couldn't care less. What I like about this is I like how sullen he looks, and I also like the comb forward on his hair. It makes him look a little bit more mean, I guess, or just a little bit more salty. It also suggests that maybe he's trying to cover something up there, if you know what I'm saying. And Betty, bless her heart, she's like, why are you so salty? And Giant Man's like, well, I guess I'll be on my way then. You've got the first annual, the Amazing Spider-Man annual for 1964, and it says now on sale. And then we've got Marvel Tales. It came out in like January of 94, and if that's the case, it could have come out even sooner than that. I think it's unusual if that's the case, because this would have come out in the summer of 64, and these are all reprints that's inside this, and they call it an annual. It says 72 big pages, so they're reprinting the origin stories of all of these heroes. I think it speaks to the sort of the success that Marvel felt it had, and so they're flying high in the summer of 1964. Boys, men, I'll help you master Yubiwaza. It is the secret, amazingly easy art of self-defense that turns just one finger of your hand into a potent weapon of defense without any bodily contact. So you point at someone and they die. In just 2 hours after you receive Yubiwaza, you will be on your way to being an invincible Yubiwaza master at home. What Yubiwaza can do for you in just a few seconds. It's 11:05 p.m. You return from dance. Hoodlums throw insulting remarks at your date, which is funny because that's what just happened in the comic. I wonder if that was intentional. They attack you with fists and bottles. You counterattack with Yubiwaza, plus 7 seconds. You are untouched while every hoodlum is on the run. And you still got the girl. That's good. That's good. How to easily overcome and master inferiority complex, bashfulness, shyness, and how to do strongman stunts with ease. I think that's a bargain. Betty Ross is chasing Bruce Banner. Based Betty says, I'm going to follow him. But he gets so upset that he turns into the Hulk, and before you know it, he's trashing his vehicle and he's bounding out of sight. And Betty is hot on the trail of her boyfriend, discovers his torn clothes and glasses, and surmises that the Hulk has attacked him. Lucky for her, Giant Man and the Wasp show up. When he bounds into the air, I mean, he is like a flippin' rocket. I mean, just look at him streak across the sky. That is so cool. Giant Man gets ahead of the Hulk, and in a sort of, I don't know what you call it, it reminded me of the B story in issue 57 of Tales to Astonish. He grabs this billboard and is going to roll it up like a megaphone so he can announce to the townspeople that the Hulk is on his way and they need to get out fast. And then the fastest, most efficient, total and complete evacuation of a city takes place instantly. The human top, who's just, he's wearing like a purple sweater vest. He says, Giant Man's going to ambush you when you go into the city center. Human top, he shows up to General Ross and says, the Hulk's in town. The town's been evacuated except for the Hulk, hint, hint. General Ross, who has an irrational hatred for the Hulk, decides that he's going to get rid of the Hulk once and for all. The soldier says everybody's cleared out of town, and the general says, then fire the small bore atomic shell. It will damage a minimum of property, but it's sure to put the Hulk out of action. The Wasp realizes the Giant Man is there too. She springs into action, and she's racing towards the shell, this nuclear shell. It's a chance in a million, but I've got to take it. And if I'm too late, then at least Hank and I will go together. I'll be with the man I love till the very end. That got me. That got me, man. It's a no-go. She can't get in, so she cybernetically communicates with Hank through her antenna. Hulk, listen to me. Look into the sky directly overhead. That's an atomic shell coming this way. If it strikes, we both die. Only you can save us. The Hulk looks up and bounds up towards the bomb. And then this, which mirrors or echoes what the Wasp said. He says, if this is going to be the end of the Hulk, then who cares? Maybe it'll be the best thing that could happen. I'm no good to myself or to anyone else. The whole world hates me almost as much as I hate myself. Wham! And you can see the Hulk racing across the sky, and it continues into the next panel. The human top is leaving. The Hulk is just being pushed through the atmosphere. Hank's in awe that the Hulk saved him. Bruce wakes up to find that he's been changed back into human form. The story more or less ends with the Avengers having another meeting at Hank Pym's apartment. Hank and Jan share a joke. And then down here, I love Cap's reading the newspaper. He's reading about Baron Zemo. Another in-house ad. I love in-house ads. And then it's an announcement that in the next issue, issue 60, Hulk is going to be taking over the B story in Tales to Astonish. There's a gorgeous splash page that opens up the B story, and it's basically a story investigating Giant Man and Janet Van Dyne. The first panel says that Hank Pym is a renowned biochemist. He's soft-spoken. He is a man of many moods. Foreshadowing, folks. As I was talking about his costume earlier on, they have a practical explanation for the design. That these bands that rest on the side of Giant Man's head are not just unique cosmetic design, they serve a function. I really think it's cool that in 64 they've got these circuit boards, They put in, but it's an ingenious cybernetic nerve center. And they explain some of the things that we've already seen, that they're able to communicate, but Giant Man's also able to, at will, change Wasp's size. He jumps up to 12 feet tall, which is considered twice the size of a normal person. He can lift about 2,000 pounds, but as he gets any bigger than 12 feet, he becomes proportionately weaker, which I think that's nice. It puts a cap sort of on what he can do. It doesn't mean that he can't get bigger, but it just means that he starts to get weaker the bigger that he gets. One of the most spectacular of his inventions is this incredible skyhook. It drops down from mental impulse, and then he just grabs it. It's tension spring, release enables him to reach his quarters in a split second. So he's able to jump up to his headquarters and also spring down, which I think that's a lot of fun. It's a very unique contraption. It's a little, I guess, Daredevil-y or Spider-Man-y. And here we see where Giant Man lived in the mid-1960s. Sort of that top block is the penthouse where they live in, which is looks like it's about the 14th or 15th floor, and also talks about it being in Lower Manhattan. They seem to distinguish, at least in 57, and also I think in this issue, by contrasting it with the West Side, where the Human Top was. This seems to be on the sort of the East Side of New York, and like the Lower East Side, so I don't know. This is just a wonderfully detailed picture of some of the things that we saw. Like, for example, we saw these gigantic dumbbells and rings, unlike the Batcave, for example, from the same time period. There's nothing here that, with the exception of, the lab, I guess, there's nothing here that's really unusual or strange. They're not in a cave, they're not in a giant man palace, they're not in a castle, they're in a 2-story penthouse in Manhattan. And here's a ad for Christmas cards, and you can order Christmas cards and sell them to your friends and family, and you can make some money selling the Christmas cards that Wallace Brown is going to sell you. True story. When I was in grade school, I should say my teachers or my school ordered something very similar to this, and we sold them to friends and family in order to raise money for field trips and whatnot. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a physical copy of Tales to Astonish, issue 59. I hope you enjoyed this retrospective. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you'd be kind enough to give it an upvote if you learned or enjoyed anything from it today. And of course, subscriptions are always welcome. Thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourself.